Yeah, absolutely excited to have the Animeros on the podcast today. I hope I'm saying that right. I feel like I am, but guys, how have you been?
Good. It's
Great.
actually
Yeah, great.
it's actually the Animeros or Animeros.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame my northern self there for that one,
All good,
and I
man.
will adjust accordingly. Um, so yeah, I would listen. I think maybe the best place to start off is you guys are from Austin, Texas, and have this very Latin inspired sound. I would just kind of love, maybe the backstory on the formation of you guys in general and the kind of style of music that you play.
Well, so Mauro and I, and then our other partner Nico, who plays bass. We've all played in different Latin bands around Austin, working together. Over the years, and done different projects and all kinds of stuff. We're just part of that Latin music scene. And we decided, the other bands we play with are, on the bigger side as far as like 7 or 8 members, depending. So we decided to come up with something a little bit smaller and just try to put together like a smaller band, still playing, cumbia and stuff, but we wanted to go a little bit more psychedelic, have a slightly smaller footprint, and just see what happened from there. And that's the band that became the Animeros.
So maybe another good place to go to here to start is, like what kind of music did you grow up on? What were your parents listening to? What, when you found your own ear, like what did you kind of gravitate towards?
I'll go first because Nick and I kind of have there's some overlap, but I think Nick and I both grew up in the South Texas region. So as you can imagine, that whole region's going to be, it's going to follow along the border. It's called the Rio Grande Valley, and so the town that Nick grew up in is kind of like the highway passes through it. Where the town that I grew up in, there's an international bridge, so you are very close to just Mexican culture, and really that whole area is just a melting pot of cultures. You're neither here nor there is the way that I like to think about it. So if you could think of Latin music and the type that we're playing, it really is just all around. It's everywhere you go. It's on the radio, and so you kind of grow up listening to it kind of passively. And when you ask me what I grew up listening to, I mean, I in high school and elementary and stuff, I mean, I was on MTV. I was watching MTV all the time. So, I loved everything that everybody loved. I mean, I would stay up super late in the summers listening to like things like Smashing Pumpkins and Nine Inch Nails, and then that kind of morphed into like the Blink-182 bands and pop punk and stuff. It really wasn't until probably the last, and I don't want to date myself, but like the last like 15 to 20 years where I was in college, and as YouTube kind of became popular, and music became super accessible, there was a sense of nostalgia that I kind of had for Latin music. And so going and finding these smaller niches of music that I generally grew up with was really fun. And so it's like I would a lot of times I would listen to Latin music and it'd be like, oh, this is kind of like what my parents liked, or we'd be at my grandma's house, like that kind of Latin music. But
Sure.
then, you're watching videos and you're like, oh man, this is like some real cool psychedelic stuff. And like, what's this? And then here's some guys from New York in the 70s, like doing it, and they all look like super cool. So then being more exposed to stuff that I was like, really digging, that's kind of what made my way towards Latin music, just generally loving it. And then ever since then, it's like never been looking back. I was a musician prior to that, but really trying to listen to it a lot, trying to learn kind of the stuff that they're doing, and picking up as much as I can by ear. And so that's kind of my path, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Mauro said, passively listening to all the type of stuff that you could find in the Rio Grande Valley, and of course, I'm ashamed to say not appreciating it the way I should have at the time. But as a kid, when I was like in high school, my formative, my stuff was like indie rock and jam bands. It's like that's what I loved all the way through high school. And then a lot of jazz. My dad was a big jazz guy, so he listened to a lot of jazz and a lot of doo-wop. He listened to a lot of 50s, and then also a lot of Western stuff. that I didn't realize until relatively recently how much of an impact like that made on me, like the Marty Robbins type of like the Western ballad type stuff. But my like love of Latin music didn't really come until college, and that was the first time in college, the first time I ever saw like a live salsa band with the three
Yeah.
percussionists all working together, and then all the horns and the singers. And so the first time I saw that, I just fell in love instantly and said, "That's what I have to. I gotta learn how to do this." And I spent years and years, studying Latin percussion and playing salsa bands, and that was like my favorite type of music. And then as I got more into, other types of Latin music, I kind of branched out from there into cumbia and into a bunch of other stuff. Um, Especially when I started getting into cumbia, then I started to kind of on the back end re-recognize some of that South Texas stuff that I had, like I said, like Mauro perfectly put, passively listened to or whatever. And I started to come back around on that kind of sound and start to recognize, how that genre, or that voice of cumbia was kind of a part of my, part of everything.
Yeah. It's funny, like, I guess I don't realize, growing up where I grew up, it's, I don't think I was passively listening to it. I was kind of forced to by my grandmother, but we listened to a lot of like, polka type stuff, very, Dutch style music.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like in terms of cumbia in general, like what, as someone who's, not fully, up to speed in that space, what is like the general distinctive factors that set it into that specific style?
Um, a lot of things, and I kind of always go back to like the roots of cumbia, which is my first real introduction to it. Besides, obviously, what we mentioned earlier about it being on in South Texas, but I studied roots cumbia in Colombia, and that's like with the drums and flutes and voices, and those are all the instrumentation of traditional Atlantic Coast Colombian cumbia. And then every country has its own cumbia tradition. Mexico and Peru and even Ecuador, and everybody has their own flavors of cumbia. And a lot of it you hear is that you hear that bass line, just that boom, 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 boom. You hear that, that's making people dance. And then those drumming patterns, you can trace that from all the way from the folkloric cumbia from Colombia all the way into the new styles. And you can kind of you can hear how those rhythms still speak back to the original stuff.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I guess I didn't realize that, every country had kind of their own take on it or version of it or, semblance of it, but that is super interesting in the sense of I guess kind of music is adapted over time and place and, maybe that's something you don't always think about, I think. In terms of you guys in general, right? So you guys formed this band, a smaller footprint, a smaller everything. What's the story of being kind of, discovered by Dan Auerbach on Easy Eye Sounds, and what's that look like for you guys?
Nick, go for it. You
All
just
right.
you just told the story super well the other day. So
Okay. Yeah, so we were just in the right place at the right time. It was a very, very cool South by Southwest experience. So this would have been 2024. We were playing our second show ever. Doing some rooftop hotel gig on South Congress in Austin during South by, and it was great. It was a fun little show. And what we found out after the fact was that Dan Auerbach was walking down the sidewalk next to that hotel, and he heard us from the roof. Didn't see us, just heard the music, and he went in to ask the lady at the front desk, like, "Who's this band?" And then I think she might not have known, or gave him an answer that he didn't know what he meant. So he just he sent his people after us, so we got a couple of responses from different people, the president of his label and one of his engineers at the studio and some other guys, they reached out to the promoter of the event. They reached out to the hotel. They're like, who was this band at this time? And he found us, and we got hit up on Instagram and our email and all kinds of stuff. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then we set up a meet. We had breakfast with him like 3 or 4 weeks later, to just meet in person and start talking about music and sharing
Yeah.
influences and all that kind of stuff. And it was just, surreal and really fun. And meeting him was so cool because he's like the coolest dude. And he has this incredible like library of deep cut tunes in his brain. And so we had so much
Right.
fun talking music and stuff like that. And then he invited us up to Nashville to record some stuff. And that led into a record and a record deal and all that, exactly what we were
Yeah.
hoping for.
Yeah. Now, prior to this, had you guys now was there music that was it just like mostly songs that you guys knew already that you were playing, or was it original music as well, that kind of that Dan would have heard?
What
It
he
was kind
li
of a
Go ahead.
mix. Yeah, I was gonna say, that was what he heard was a 30-minute set, and so I would say out of that 30-minute set, maybe a quarter of it was covers, and already, it's hard to say they were deep cuts because probably for a lot of people, a lot of this music is deep cuts, unless you've gone down, the rabbit hole of listening to like psychedelic cumbia or chicha music.
Sure.
But we weren't playing like the ones that, the chicha tunes that everybody knows. So we were already playing some deep cuts, and then everything else was original. We had met again. This was our second show, so we had met a few months earlier there with already some pretty strong ideas, and we were able to get in a room and just kind of knock them out and be like, hey, let's put this on a stage, and let's work some stuff out on stage. It's how we that's generally our approach a lot of times with our tunes. We put them in a room, and do they pass? Do they fail? And we
Mhm.
bring them on the stage, and then we play them, we kind of revise them, we tune them up, and then we keep on doing that. So yeah, that was pretty much yeah, to answer your question, mostly original stuff that we were playing that night. So
Yeah, that's amazing. And then you get up to the studio in Nashville. I was lucky enough to kind of walk through the space. The space is like a step back into time, it feels like. And what was that experience like? What was it like to get into a room like that and record some stuff? And how has that process been for you guys?
It was amazing. I'll never forget walking in there for the first time because we flew in on a Sunday and, you know, our session was supposed to start Monday morning, but they invited us like, "Why don't you come on Sunday night? We'll, get some stuff set up. We'll you know, get a little lay of the land so we can walk in Monday morning, with all the introductions out of the way and all the, you know,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff done." And it was great. We walked in. They had, I mean, I'm sure Maldo, all the guys, we were all like struck by all the cool stuff. They had rented a ton of awesome Latin percussion for me to use. And so I just went through like picking out the stuff I wanted. I mean, kid in the candy shop picking out like, oh, definitely going to use this drum. I'm definitely going to use this cowbell and this Weedle and like all this stuff. I was like, this is
Yeah.
incredible. So I just started placing the stuff what I wanted to use. I'm sure Maldo felt the same way looking at Dan Auerbach's guitar collection.
yeah, yeah, a few weeks prior, as we were figuring out what we wanted to take over there, I was like, I mean, you guys probably, have like a guitar that I could use there, and they sent me like some photos of just walls of guitar, and I
Right.
was kind of asking in jest a little bit, but man, just play. It was a candy shop for sure. I mean, we were able to really play around with some unique gear and some great sounds, and that part of it was exciting. But just to kind of talk about that first night, because we had really, we flew in, we dropped our bags at the Airbnb, and we're like, hey, let's go try to get some sounds just to get an early morning. Um, we obviously met the Easy Eye fam and the team there, and everybody was super, you know, awesome, and it was very evident pretty quickly that they were going to be great to work with. We fired up our instruments, and we're like, well, let's run this one tune that we hadn't really run at all, and let's just like kind of work it out since we're going to be, just getting sounds.
Mhm.
And as we were playing, I just remember from the control room, everybody was just like, oh, everybody was just a fan. And those were the conversations we had leading up to it. But to actually be there playing these tunes, everybody's like, "Oh man, that sounds pretty sick." I mean, I was like, "This is going to be a fun week," because you're working with people who genuinely seem like they had some interest in the music, and they're like, "Okay, this is kind of new," and
Mhm.
So that first night was like, we all clicked pretty quickly, and yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's like I think the first single off of I'm assuming the album you're working towards Gozalo, and I'm sure I'm butchering that as well. But I remember like through this tour, they played, they're like, oh, you want to hear some records? And they played that for us. And yeah, I mean, that oddly enough and funny enough of a story, I suppose, is my attraction or my interest in Latin music is from my own research is boleros type stuff, right? And it's literally corny enough to admit it's from the show Narcos that I like really got into it. Like so
Yeah.
like genuinely, like I went down a rabbit hole for like weeks listening to this style of music, and like I listened to it, I'm just like, oh, this is so good. Like I loved it. And yeah, I'm excited, obviously excited to hear the album. And you guys come away from Nashville, with I'm assuming almost a whole album recorded. Is that something you're sitting on now, or is it still kind of a work in progress?
No, we recorded the whole album and plus some that week.
Hmm.
We went into Easy Eye kind of not knowing what to expect. We didn't know how much they wanted to do. We we had a inkling that a record deal might be on the table, but we didn't know for sure. They didn't offer us a record deal until after the fact, or rather the Thursday night of that week. But we just went in. We had 20 songs prepared. Only 6 or 7 we had played live before, and everything else was totally new to us. Uh,
Yeah,
and we said, we're just going to give them everything we have. And it's like they can pick the 10 that they like or the whatever that they like. Maybe we can do a record together. We really had no idea what to expect, but we recorded 20 tunes that week, which is a lot, but
it's a lot. Yeah,
it was great, and we're proud of all of them. And yeah, so they offered us that record deal, and we actually just finalized the like the last masters like a week ago. So they had picked out the songs. So that album is going to be dropping sometime in August. I thought we had the final date, and then it just changed on us. So, but it's looking like August is when the full album comes out. Our first album on Easy Eye Sound.
yeah, that's absolutely amazing, and like just a testament to like the musicians you are individually, right? To be able to come together a few weeks prior and kind of have it feels like it's been a whirlwind, what year for you guys, let alone um talk about coming together really fast and finding some success. That's yeah, definitely a testament to the individual ability you guys all have, and the chemistry you've kind of formed over this short period of time, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. And of course, Mauro is one of the most like prolific songwriters and guitar players that I've ever met. And so he had, so many, he came in with so many ideas and that were like pretty fleshed out. And then we were, me and Nico were able to like kind of grab onto that and, add our voice to it, make our little changes. And then the other thing is, me and Nico both came in with some ideas as well. And then, anytime I bring Mauro like a snippet of an idea, he can turn it into a real song in like
Hmm.
seemingly minutes. And so it just, it are the three of us working together, we can really, I think we put together cool tunes pretty fast.
Yeah. Now, Mauro, do you have like a lot of songwriting experience outside of this? Like, were you, songwriting kind of your whole life before this, or?
Yeah, I mean, for probably since high school, and not just this genre. This is like the newest genre I ever tried to write for, but since high school, I played in various types of bands, and then, if I were to get any of the hard drives that I have, I mean, I just have demo after demo, stuff that I just have completely forgot that I recorded. I
Yeah.
have always just hit record and kind of track stuff. The thing with this music, versus the other stuff it is very, there's a lot of specifics that happen in this music. So when writing something like this, like Nico said, I mean, like Nick said, being able to work with Nick and Nico, I mean, we're able to put that together where it's really, like let's say that in a prior project, I was writing something more like soul. I mean, I can get around soul pretty quickly and do, do something. I mean, I've been listening to soul. A lot of people in Austin listen to soul. Not as many people listen to Latin music, and then not as many people know how to play Latin music.
Sure.
And so putting an idea in a room with these guys, I mean, it's crazy how quickly we were able to work. It's yeah. So
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I guess too, like, in terms of like the, being an artist and kind of gigging around Austin and doing all these other things is, and I'm assuming, other jobs on top of that. How do you balance all that? And especially with like, again, back to this crazy year, it feels like it's been for you guys. How has the balancing of all that been? And, yeah, I guess just that.
I mean, it's definitely one of our like kind of main challenges that we're trying to successfully tackle right now
Hmm.
is, obviously, there's a lot of interest in the band, and the band has a lot of road dates coming up. You can see the Animeros, lots of places coming up this year. But we also, like you said, trying to figure out how to balance that with our jobs, uh, and our, uh, people's family lives and stuff like that, and also, doing it in a way that it's still financially viable. That's definitely like, I think, at the forefront of all of our minds is how are we making this work. So we're doing it, and we're figuring it out little by little. If anybody listening has the answer, please reach out at theanimeadows.com if you have the answer.
Right. That'd be great. Yeah. I'd love to be looped in on that
yeah,
as
if
well.
Yeah,
if
it
I
will.
could expand on that, if I could expand on that, because we've thought about this as, like we're not these 18, 20-year-olds who are like, hey, we could just all get in a van and just,
Right.
rough
Yeah,
it
of course.
for 6 months. Um, the part of me is like, because I kind of lived a little bit of that life coming out of high school, and everybody had to drop playing music because they had to go get their life started and
Hmm.
go do the other stuff. Now, us three, and then we work with two other guys, two amazing musicians, one on keys and one on congas, and they also have lives. And I'm like, maybe this is the way to go, where you already have built your life, so you don't need to stop playing music. You just got to balance it. Where
Right.
so it might seem like, oh, it's hard to get away from work, or it's hard to get away from the thing that's making you money when you're not playing music. It's hard to get away from family. It's not necessarily that. It's striking a balance versus like, hold on, I got to stop playing altogether. There is no balance. I got to, go find out what I'm going to do until, so,
Yeah. A little bit
so I
of,
think we're at a good spot. I think we're at a good spot, and we'll be able to find that balance and have a good time playing music, you know, without
yeah.
driving ourselves too crazy.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's definitely some of that like hindsight clarity, being able to have a little bit of I don't want to say life experience under your belt, but definitely goes a little ways to have something, kind of concrete behind you,
Yeah,
to say the least.
that's a
Uh,
that's another thing
Go
that, I
ahead, Nick.
mean, that is a benefit of this band, is that we're all old dudes. We're all, in our late 30s or early 40s. I mean,
Right.
we're definitely not that band that's gonna like bankrupt ourselves by trashing hotel rooms, and we're all looking for our next opportunity to get some sleep. So we're gonna be a pretty responsible band out on the road. So we're not gonna burn ourselves out, rather. At least I surely don't think so.
There's now in the day and age of, social media, have you guys found, early on, have you found something that's like successful for you guys in terms of getting your music out there and connecting with people, or is it more these, kind of the community you've already kind of established within Austin itself?
I think we're at the very beginning of our journey. As much as I
Hmm.
feel like we've been hustling with this for the last year or two. I really, if I were to just look at, what do we have lined up over the next few months, just really getting out there outside of Austin, um, I think that will help us out. But you mentioned social media, because that's, the way to go. And again, we're, like we've mentioned a few times, we're not spring chickens, and but
Sure.
we're not completely illiterate to social media. We know how to
Right.
kind of, try to build a brand and tell our story and, share good stuff with the people who have approached us and said, "Hey, I love your music. Who are you guys?" But really, and I'm not just saying this because you're interviewing us. It's people like you who like knock on our door and we're like, "Oh man, this is cool."
Right.
It's people like
Yeah.
you who really create a launch pad for bands like us who, yeah, we try to do as much social media as we can, but
It's tough.
that's one of the
Yeah.
10 things that we got to focus on while we're also like, hey, we're also working on some music. Hey, there's all this other stuff going on in the
Right.
background. So something like this, I mean, just tremendous help
Yeah.
to bands like us and bands
Yeah.
who are already established. I mean,
Hmm.
I love to listen to podcasts with musicians and stuff. So this is great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's I feel like I say this probably once an episode. I don't envy the amount of things that music, like being an artist, entails nowadays. Like it is a lot. It is so much to balance, and then on top, again, like for a band just starting out, on top of balancing just how to make it work financially, and then you got all this other stuff. It's not an enviable spot to be in, but yeah, I try to position myself in a place to help people, and I guess kind of gearing towards maybe a more fun question, and one that I love asking. Between the two of you, if you were teaching a music class, you had 5 albums that were required listening, kind of based to your taste. What would those 5 albums be?
Okay. Just a general music class, or can I tailor it even more specifically? Because
You could
I'm
tailor however you'd like to.
then I'm gonna give you the 5 albums that I give to every drummer of like, you have to know about this, and it's,
Mhm.
I mean, any Beatles album, because I there's not a single drummer that shouldn't be like studying Ringo Starr. So pick, I mean, any Beatles album, White Album, Revolver, anything you want. Those are all fair game. I would say another drummer I'm obsessed with, and I think that more musicians should be listening to, is Jason McGurr, the drummer for Death Cab for Cutie. So Transatlanticism from 1999 has some of the most like incredible indie rock, like precise drumming of all time. It's so beautiful. I mean, any album from 1999 onward with that band has like some of my favorite drumming. Um, 3 would be ah, any Police record, because that's also Copeland is also a drummer that like you have to listen to. And then 4 and 5, we're going into the Latin genre. 4, I would say Indestructible, which is a Ray Barretto album. You can listen to some of the best conga playing and some like the best, timbali and bongo playing anywhere is Indestructible. And then also in the salsa world, uh, but A Man and His Music by Willie Rosario. Any Willie Rosario album to hear, like, my favorite timbali player, Willie Rosario, is like the way he does things. He has the grooviest salsa band, and it's the least flashy. It's the least flashy salsa band, but he just grooves so hard. It's really remarkable what he does by leaving space, which is not what most timbali players tend to do. They love to fill up every space with notes, and he's the exact opposite, and it makes for like the grooviest, coolest thing.
Amazing. I love that.
I don't know if I could name 5, and they're not really in the Latin genre, but like just stuff that I learned a lot of music from. First, like by far, is Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. I was like picking up guitar for the first time, like, when I was in middle school and learning how to read tabs for the first time and figuring out like what the hell does that chord mean? And I was like, okay, and I look at the chart and I'm like, wow, that sounds like, the actual song that I'm listening to. And so that pieced a lot of stuff together for me. There's some jazzy chords in that, like obviously that album just kind of goes everywhere. I would say that album or not, if not that album, just like to a student. learn music that you really like already and you know by heart, because you'll be able to piece a lot of stuff together just listening to it and being like, oh, that is what that chord sounds like. It's not
Gotcha.
a C, it's a C major seven, and what, it unlocks all the stuff in your brain. Um, I would say you actually brought this up, the Narco soundtrack. The guy who does um the theme song to that is one of my favorite songwriters of all time. His name's Rodrigo Amarante from Brazil. Um, that's a song that he does on his own, but he originally came from a band called Los Hermanos. Then from Los Hermanos, he started a very quick project with the drummer to the Strokes and some singer named Binky Shapiro from LA called Little Joy. One album, 10 songs, no skips.
Yeah.
That album just taught me great harmony, great dynamic, great production. It just has a kind of raw, warmth, analog vibe to it. Um, Great album, Little Joy, self-titled, and it's just, again, a no skip album. The third one that I could think of, just because it is close to this, and also you mentioned bolero type of music. In terms of songwriting, when I really think about the first music that like I really did fall in love with, it was kind of some of the slower stuff, because it didn't necessarily remind me of like my parents, but it reminded me of like a Mexican wedding or my grandparents or something like that. That real beautiful music.
Yeah.
And there's a band which you might have come across in your, quest to learn more about boleros and famous boleros. There's a band called Los Panchos from New York
Mm.
City from like the 50s, 60s, and they're a three-piece. Between them, I mean, they just sound like an orchestra between their guitars and their voices. So really, you could close your eyes and point to whatever song you want, and it's going to be
Right.
beautiful. But they do a collaboration with a singer, a English singer, named Eddie Gourmet, who is doing some Spanish vocals, some Spanish language vocals on it, and her voice just brings that collaboration to like another level, and that's just like, to me, that whole album, I think it's really just called Los Panchos featuring Eddie Gourmet. Beautiful start to finish. Again, no skips, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Those are the three that I could think of, like in terms
Yeah,
of
you're
teaching
good.
music. Then it's like
Yeah.
Tupac, All Eyes on Me, double disc. Man, dude, you just
Right.
throw that on anytime, and you're like, oh damn, all right,
Yeah. I
at the
feel
gym
you.
that comes on, and I'm like, it takes me back to fifth grade. So,
Right. Yeah, no
uh,
doubt. I appreciate all those choices. Yeah, that's it's nice to get, you know, I love that question because it's always different for everybody. And um I guess, usually where I go next is and I understand that you guys have a smaller, discography at the moment, but in terms of the songs that you have, maybe they're not out yet, but what song are you most proud of?
I mean, we have unreleased stuff that's coming out like on the full album in August. We have a lot of stuff we're excited about. I think we've all really actually really hyped on a bolero that we have. That is, it just came out so beautifully. It was so, it produced really well, and then the other musicians in the studio with us, like the keyboard player, did some really incredible stuff, and it just came out really great. And it's just very cinematic, and we can't stop being like super psyched about it. So I'll send it
Yeah.
to you if
Yeah,
you want
absolutely.
advance ears on it, Matt. Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass it along because we just got the final masters and it just sounds incredible. But it's a song called Al Final del Camino, and when the full album comes out, that's the album closer. I don't know if I should be giving it away. It doesn't matter. Album closer, and I think
You're
it's one
good.
of the most beautiful songs that we've ever come up with.
yeah, I agree. That's definitely a highlight. If I have to choose a different song than that, that's not released, that when we heard the mix back of it, just because it gets super weird, is a cover of a band from Peru called Traffic Sound. Um, and the song that we do is called La Camita, and we play it very often live. But man, it's just a song that the original version blends this like Latin funky soul with rock, and then it goes kind of tropical, and then it like comes out of it, and it's just a weird kind of song. And actually, Dan's the one who made us, he sent it our way. He's like, "What do you guys think about this song?" We're like, "Oh man, this is like sick." So as we were listening to the final mixes very recently, I heard that song again, not having heard the album version, because again, we play it live. Um, and I'm like, man, there's something just real weird and cool and vibey going on here that, like, as much as I'm generally familiar with some of the music that's going out and current right now, some of the bigger
Yeah.
bands that are doing like cumbia, some of the bands that are doing bolero, that song, I'm like, man, I don't know if a lot of people are doing this kind of stuff. So I'm excited
Mhm.
about that one because it really is a genre blender. We were able to put our own spin on it, and it sounds really cool. So I think that's coming out as a single, possibly. I'm not
Well,
sure, but that's called La Janita. So no, it's gonna be
Yeah.
cool next month. Yeah.
Amazing. And then, usually a spot I always ask is, I live in music curation, so I always ask a song or a project you've really been into recently.
Like something newer.
It doesn't have to be newer, just something that, you've been really, kind of digging right lately.
I've been going back to my punk discography because during South by No Effects just put out a documentary, which I probably can't even say the name of the documentary without being beep bleeped out here.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, this
They're
is
they're one of the bands too that, like, in middle school. I mean, I listened to a lot of punk music, and so they were one of the first bands that I listened to, and it was crazy. I've been listening a lot to their album The Decline, which is just an opus. I mean, 17-minute, like, crazy great punk
right.
song, and I've
Yeah.
been listening to that like at least like twice a week, and I'm like, okay, let me just put it on again. It's great for a long drive. So
Amazing.
nice. I played. I don't know if this is unfair but I played a very small part in an Austin band um, called Caravan Strange. That's like Egyptian Arabic funk fusion, and that album. I just got my like vinyl copy of the album. The album hasn't come out yet, but they have one single out. And again, I was a very small part of the album, but being able to listen to it to those musicians and hearing like that final product, it's to me, it's one of the most exciting things. And I bet you in a year, everybody in Austin is going to know the name of that band because it's the lead singer's from Egypt and everything he sings is in Arabic, and it's these new to me Egyptian rhythms and all these like semitones on the keyboard, stuff like that. It's just really intense. It's such a fun, wild kind of dancey music. It's unlike anything I'd ever heard before. So that's going to be
Amazing.
any Caravan Strange stuff is going to be really, really exciting.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, and then I guess just to wrap up, guys, like what, we talked obviously about, the album, about a little bit of touring, but what do you guys have coming up?
Next
Nick, you
week
got it
we
all by memory probably.
Yeah. So next week we hit the road. I mean, we have a San Antonio gig this weekend, kind of our backyard. But next week we hit the road, the American Southeast. So we're hitting Houston on the 22nd, and then New Orleans for an after party, like an unofficial Jazz Fest after party, which we're stoked on. Then
Nice.
really cool
Yeah.
venue in Mobile, Alabama called Callahan's. Then we're hitting Double Decker Fest in Mississippi, up in Oxford, right by Ole Miss. And then we're super excited because for the Animeros are going to Europe for the first time, and so we're flying to Europe at the
Amazing.
end of the month, and we're playing Paris. Then we're playing a festival in Belgium called Roots and Roses, and then a festival in the Netherlands called R&B Night. And then we're doing a London date before we fly back to the States. So those are, I mean, our first international trip, and it's all these really cool spots in Europe that we're stoked on.
Amazing. Well, guys, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day. And yeah, I mean, I love what you guys are doing,
Thank you,
and
man.
can't wait to hear more.
Thank you for all your support. I mean, you featured
Yeah, thanks for
Gosalo, which
having
was
us,
like,
man.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
our first single, and then thanks for having us on your awesome South by show. That was like really fun, man. So
Yeah, that was
we really
fun.
appreciate
Yeah,
we really appreciate all the stuff you've done.
yeah. No worries. Yeah, it's been yeah, I try to put on the music I like, so I appreciate you guys.
Cool.
You guys are